If it falls off, I'm gonna hold it. But Eric, yeah. Why? No, I think I'm good. It's already on, so maybe I need to not have it on until I'm ready to start.
You're good.
Okay. Is it on?
Yeah, it's not going to amplify to the room. It's just going to amplify into the live stream. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you. Can I get everybody's attention, please? Hello? Hi. So I thought this microphone was actually going to amplify to the room. I don't know why. There's not a setup here, but it's early. I haven't had coffee. This is for the live stream, so I'm going to have to just act like I'm lecturing. So apologies for that. But I want to go ahead and get started so that we stay on time for the day. I'm Camille Charles. I'm professor of sociology. I'm chair of the Department of Africana Studies here at the University of Pennsylvania. And for the last 16 years, I've had the great pleasure of directing the Summer Institute for Pre-Freshmen. So the first thing I want to do is welcome all of the participants and the families and friends and guardians who have gotten our participants here today. So welcome and thank you for doing your part to make this happen. Hopefully things have gone smoothly to this point. We're usually in a high-rise dorm. So this is our first time in Du Bois, but we're actually really excited to be in Du Bois. We do quite a bit of programming during the year in this room here. And so we're really excited about being in Du Bois. I want to give a quick shout out to all of the graduate fellows and peer mentors who have been working all summer to get this. They're also going to work a lot with your students, with our participants all week long. And so I thank them in advance for that. I want to thank my staff, Tia Campbell and Diane Leslie. I know most of you probably already know Miss Tia because she keeps the trains going on time and keeps the wheels on everything. We wouldn't be here today without her. And Diane has joined us this summer to help out, so we really appreciate it. So the Summer Institute is really kind of an institution here at the university. This is our 36th year. It is the only program of its kind among Ivies and Ivy peers and really nationally that we are aware of, so that students spend a week taking 2 mini courses. The idea is to sort of give them the flavor of midterms week here at the university so that they have some preconceived accurate sense of what midterms week is like here. The other thing that we're really focused on is community building and a sense of belonging here at the university. You know, the Black population on campus is still relatively small. And so it is often hard to make those connections or to feel like this is our home as much as it is everybody else's, despite all of the marketing and those kinds of things. And so this week allows an opportunity for the students to get to know one another and create connections, but we also introduce them to all kinds of other units on campus that might be of interest to them or valuable to them, but also they're going to be able to establish connections with faculty. It's very important to do this and to start doing this as early as possible, and we know that freshmen, or I should say first years, and we're going to have to change our name. I don't know what we're going to do, but first year students are often more reluctant than most to work on establishing those relationships with faculty members. They don't know what they should say if they go to office hours, and they think you only go to office hours when you have a problem. And so if I don't have a problem, then what am I going to talk to them about? It seems kind of weird. This is an opportunity for them to have classes in small seminar settings where they learn how to participate in class discussions and ask questions. They have access to the faculty outside of class to get to know them. Students are assigned an Africana faculty mentor for this school year. And that person may be the person they take their class with. It may not be. We have lots of other faculty who participate in this program. And so that is another opportunity, and I want to say now, I'm going to beat you guys over the heads with it, to take advantage of that. So even if it's somebody that you don't meet this week, when they reach out to you in September, respond, make that appointment. Some of them take you guys to lunch. You can actually take your faculty mentor to lunch at the faculty club that's up above the Inn at Penn. But it's an opportunity to have somebody to check in with, to ask questions. If you don't know how to approach a professor who's teaching you, they can talk to you as a sounding board, like how you might approach them. If you are struggling with how to organize things and get your notes together, this is somebody you can talk to. If you're homesick, but you don't want to tell your parents, there's somebody you can talk to, okay? So, if you need to be connected with other kinds of services. So what we try to do really is to impress upon you all that when we say that this is a community, it isn't just the community of students, meaning undergraduates and graduate students. It is also the faculty, it's the staff. There are folks all over campus who want to see you succeed, okay? This is the best thing that I do in my job. This is the absolute favorite part for me of being a professor. And the best parts are seeing you guys here today and then seeing you guys on Locust Walk when you graduate. Okay, so we all get in our regalia, we line Locust Walk, and we're looking for you guys. Because that's kind of our job well done. Okay, so we're invested in seeing you guys all the way through. The other thing that we do here is that we introduce students to the discipline or the field of Africana studies. It's likely not something that you've taken classes in high school. We think that it offers an interesting and important perspective on everything that we do. And so, some people look at Africana studies as filling in the spaces that mainstream disciplines miss or maybe interpret differently. But my colleague Tukufu Zuberi describes Africana studies as the discipline that teaches us what it means to be human. Okay, and so we are interested in your full humanity. We are interested in infusing in the rest of the academic and social world an understanding of what it means to be human. All of the positives and negatives that go along with that. Okay, and so we try to present to you a mix of courses to choose from that cut across all of the traditional academic fields that are included in Africana studies, because Africana studies is multidisciplinary. So I'm a sociologist by training, and my work, I'm an Americanist, so I'm one of the less interesting of my colleagues because I don't travel to fancy places. I don't speak any fancy languages, but I study racial inequality in the United States. I spend a lot of time thinking about residential segregation and the impact of residential segregation on all kinds of important outcomes for people in the United States. But I am particularly interested in the impact that segregation has had on racial inequality for Black people in the United States. We have colleagues who study Africa. Some are trained in anthropology, some are trained in history, some are trained in communications. We have some who study the Caribbean, who also cut across a variety of fields. So you'll meet a lot of interesting people who do a lot of interesting things, and often their knowledge cuts across their own particular areas of expertise, right? So we have sociologists and historians who employ anthropological methods or who use literature in their work, and vice versa. So we think that it's a really interesting field, but we also think that it's a good foundation for anything else that you would do as an academic major or minor or anything that you would be interested in studying, because it does provide that alternative framework for understanding how we are where we are and who we are as a people, both amongst ourselves. I'm going to talk about Black diversity in the U.S. tomorrow at the faculty book talk at the opening luncheon, but also globally, right? And how we interact and intersect globally, and how the experiences of Blacks in one part of the world might be related to or similar to the experience of Blacks in other parts of the world, right? And again, we believe that that foundation, the critical thinking skills that come along with that will actually bolster your Penn experience. You'll be prepared to ask different kinds of questions and to have higher expectations of your professors in your other classes at such time as you start taking those other classes. Of course, we would love to have some of you major or minor with us, but this is not like one of those timeshare programs where you get the free vacation, but you have to listen to the speech and then, sign up for a timeshare. So we have structured our major so that students can double major because we are aware that often parents want you to major in something practical. But we also want you to remember, because majoring in something impractical doesn't have to mean Africana studies, right? And I actually think that all of our majors here are practical. So here is my spiel on that. We have an obvious idea about where a degree in political science will lead us or where a degree in history will lead us, because we think that's what you do when you want to go to law school. Okay, or PPE. We think, oh, if I want to go into finance, I major in econ, or I try to transfer to Wharton if I'm a College of Arts and Sciences student. But the truth of the matter is that the finance sector does as much recruiting outside of Wharton on our campus as they do inside of Wharton, and they are actually interested in students with liberal arts educations. And that's true for law school. That's true if you want to go into journalism or broadcast journalism. They don't really need you to major in communications anymore. They need you to know how to think. They need you to know how to communicate ideas. They need you to know how to problem solve, because you can be taught how to write for whichever, whether it's television or print or digital. They can teach you how to do that. Just like in finance, if you need to know how to add and subtract or work Excel spreadsheets or whatever, those things can be taught. But great oral and written communication skills are harder to teach, right? Critical thinking skills are harder to teach, and that's the benefit of the liberal education, and that's the benefit of this program. So we work you guys really hard this week. How many of you have done all of your reading for the week already? I don't want this. How many of you? Let me come look over here. Wow. All right. This might be a first. Usually. Oh, I don't have to ask that. My child has come through this program. I know how many parents put. I know how many parents said, they said you were supposed to read before you. Usually I at least have 2. So you're telling me I don't even have 2 students who've done all of the reading. Okay, how many of you have done 80% of the reading? Jeez. Okay. Y'all are gonna be tired. So you win 80%er. That's great. Okay? So the idea is, when you get your syllabi for your classes for the fall, almost all of them say that they expect you to have done the reading for that day's lecture before you get to class. The more you don't do that, the harder midterms are. Because suddenly you've got 4 or 5 classes, and midterms actually start, like, I don't know, it's weird, 3 or 4 weeks into a 15-week semester, because some have 2 midterms and a final, which to me, that's not a midterm. It's halfway, okay? So the idea is we give you everything a month ahead of time so that you have the time to read it, because don't you have work due tomorrow night? Yeah. You guys are full all day today. You're full all day tomorrow. How many of you have finished the work that's due tomorrow night? Okay. Okay. All right, so you were able, okay, that's good. There's 3 or 4 of you. So the rest of you are going to be up late. The okay? And it's gonna accumulate because you have more reading for the classes, right? You gotta get caught up on the reading you didn't do for the classes as they meet. And then you get other work that's due, right, by the end of the week. You gotta go to class, because we'll come find you if you try to miss. So I don't know what you're gonna do when you're enrolled students here and you're not in my program, but in my program, everybody goes to class. So you can't fall asleep because the classes are small. All right, so the idea is you're gonna learn a really valuable lesson this week. And what I wanna hear when I see you all at various points during the fall is that you all didn't make this mistake in midterms during the semester because you remember how tired you were, how behind you felt. Now, you're going to be in good company because usually I do have a few more students who have done everything, and those who didn't are looking around at those, 5 or 6 students who are rested and, full of questions and have free time in the evenings because they've done all their work. Okay, so even this is an important lesson, and it is part of the plan, because I would have been surprised, like I said, usually I get 1 or 2, maybe 4 students who've done all the reading beforehand, but usually you haven't. And as I told the GFs yesterday, it's developmentally appropriate behavior. I have a student who's a senior here at Penn. I have a rising senior at home. I get it. It's like just talking into, the abyss. So some things have to be experienced and learned, and we know that. And so this is a place for you to do that where, there's no harm, because we will see you through. We have not had anybody not complete the program, okay? And that's not because we're easy with things, because we're not. It's because we know you can do it. It's because you can recover from not having read everything. I'm sure some of you have read something. I hope you at least read the 2 chapters from my book for tomorrow.
Yes.
So, because that would be a problem, okay? So the idea is that by the end of the week, you guys have formed community, you've made friends. We talk to alum all the time where, they did the program 30 years ago, and the people that they met are still their best friends to this day. And those are the kinds of connections we're trying to help foster. I have students who came through this program, the first time I participated in the program, I was an instructor. I have students from the year that I taught the first time that I'm still in touch with. So the idea is we are like a gang. Once you're in, you're in. You can not major in Africana studies. You can never come to any of our events. You can, do whatever, but we're here. We're here when you succeed, and we're here when you need support because you're having challenges. We're here to celebrate your accomplishments. And we're here to help you through the hard times, okay? And so we want to make this the best experience possible for all of you. The staff, the graduate fellows who mentor you and look out for you, and the peer mentors who show you the ropes. The peer mentors have gone through the program, so they know how things go. And my experience has been that they are invested in actually seeing that you do the things as we expect them to happen, and that they understand why we do things the way that they do, and they help the way that we do, and help you to understand that as well. And so I think that's the bulk of my spiel, but I always want to answer any questions, particularly from parents, because parents are going to get booted out of here fairly soon. But I can also answer questions from, listen to all the excitement among the students. They're like, yes, finally. Oh, one important thing. You all are not yet matriculated at the University of Pennsylvania, okay? So you are not yet enrolled students. This program, yes, you get an elective CU, but you are still not yet officially enrolled students in the university. At the point that you become officially enrolled students, the university treats you guys like adults. Okay, so, you know, if something happens, they work with you. We are not allowed as professors or administrators of the university. There are a very narrow set of circumstances in which we can talk to your parents without your permission. Okay, so that once you're an enrolled student, if I have a student who needs some support, I have to call another person to kind of help with that. Because we're not allowed to just pick up the phone and call your parents and say, hey, you know, Zora's not going to class. We can't do that. Okay? While you are a summer institute student, I want for you all, not only this week, but your entire Penn experience, I want for you what I want for my own kid. Okay? So I am deeply invested in your success and your safety, and in making sure that you actually enroll in the fall. So there are certain kinds of rules that if you break them around the wrong people, you could lose your admission to the university. All right? So things like underage drinking or smoking weed is decriminalized in the city of Philadelphia. It is not legal, and it is not allowed on campus. So those are behaviors where, let's say you got caught by somebody else around here, you could lose your admission to the university. All right? Also, many of you are still minors. And for all of you, because you're not enrolled students yet, although the university takes great responsibility for you, really the buck stops with me. All right? I'm responsible for you guys. So we do run a tight ship. You know, we do want to know where you are. We do kind of restrict how far you are allowed to go. You'll learn all of the rules and stuff later. You know, you can't fraternize. There are no frat parties this week. No sorority, no parties. You got lots of time to go to parties. There will be all kinds of parties during new student orientation. I don't like it, but it happens. Can't stop it. Okay? So all I ask is that you all just abide by the rules. It'll be like staying with your fun auntie, right? So it'll be better than being at home with your parents. But it will not be what it's like when you come to campus and you are free to roam and other things happen that, again, I'm not a fan of, but I'm a realist and it's out there. Okay? So hopefully that makes most of the parents feel pretty okay. Thank you. The graduate fellows really kind of, they're the ones on the ground. They know what my tolerance level is. They have authority to handle a lot of stuff, but there is a point at which they would inform me that something was happening and I would then come in. I have never had to send a student home. And I have never actually had to call a parent for misbehavior. I mean, we have had a couple of minor medical things happen, but again, one of the best hospital systems in the world is right here. Some of the best doctors in the world. They have access to student health. We have the hospital right across the street. But yeah, I've never had to send anybody home. I've never had to call anybody's parents. But I have come close to calling some parents. I am not above calling some parents because I am a parent. And I do vaguely remember being a teenager. So I understand, but I also understand what my responsibility is, and that is to make sure that you all are successful and that you get here in August for new student orientation. Because even, I mean, the university wouldn't have to rescind your admission, but you know, you might do something where your parents just get really upset and say, maybe you're not ready to go, right? I don't want that either. So, we have protocols in place. Again, I've directed the program for 16 years, and there have only been 2 instances where I've had to even think about calling parents or sending kids home. And so, you know, I want you to relax and know that Your students are gonna be way too busy and very soon, way too tired to really, because in all honesty, the things that happened in like the first 2 days. Where I was like, wow, you couldn't even get to midweek, you know? So it really doesn't happen. You know, the kids are amazing, and you know, the only bad thing about you guys not getting to be here to see how amazing they are. Not just themselves and in their classes, but with each other. So, so again, are there any questions from parents, from students, a GF or a PM who wants to say, I forgot something? Okay, you guys are quiet. Usually I have questions. Maybe Tia did a really good job of just sharing all of the possible information, which is fine. If you find that you have questions later, you can shoot me an email. I'm Googleable, and you probably have my email somewhere in all of the stuff you've gotten. And I'm happy to answer general questions, hypotheticals, but I will not be, nor will Tia, be sharing detailed information about how your child is doing here this week. Okay? They may or may not be texting you as regularly as they usually do, because I've learned from my own experience that this is the moment where they start to text a little less. Again, developmentally appropriate. You'll start to get things like, Mom, I'm busy, I have homework. But it is appropriate. But those specific things you want to know, you're going to have to get out of your kid. Because I can't, as I said, I cannot do that. If something is jeopardizing their safety, I will call you myself. But short of that, they have to share the specifics, but we can share general things. If something occurs to you later and you have a question, you can certainly let me know that, and I will do my best to answer it. Ms. Tia can also answer just sort of broad questions. And really, I don't remember if you have your student's GF's phone number or not, but if you do, that is for emergencies on your side, not to ask them for detailed information about how your child is doing. Okay, we have any dietary restrictions, any needs for accommodations in class, all of that stuff, we have it and we're taking care of it. And those are things that I actually take very seriously. I advocate a lot for students with learning challenges. I'm on the advisory board for the Wine Garden Center. So those are things that are important to me. We ask those questions up front because we want to make sure that your child is set up to succeed. We have time all week long for them to meet with pre-major advisors or to get started with SDS if they need to get set up because they didn't get set up with formal accommodations. I always recommend starting that process as early as possible. So we're doing everything that we can do here, and you should assume that no news is good news. Okay, and if your nest is emptying, enjoy it, because it's only for a week. Then you get them back. All right, but know that they're okay. All right, because again, every year I just sort of gain more kids, because these kids are like my kids now, and I'm going to fight for them at Penn like I fight for my own kids. Okay, so if there are no questions, again, I want to thank you all for entrusting us with your students this week. I want to thank the students for their interest in our program, and I want to wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you. I will see you all again tomorrow at the opening luncheon, formally at the barbecue on Wednesday, but you'll probably see me here and there because I'm trying to move toward working on campus more, since we're just going to pretend COVID isn't a thing anymore. I do want to recommend, when you can, if not this week, when you come to campus in the fall, in settings like this, even when we say masks are optional, I would say wear them because, again, parties, alcohol. When people aren't sober, they don't always make the best decisions and things spread. And that is real. So, and what you will find is that lots of the students here wear their masks all the time. It won't be one of those things where, I walked into a place the other day where I was literally not only was I the only Black person in the whole place, but I was also the only person wearing a mask. But that was out in the suburbs. Here on campus, you'll see people masking all the time, so not only should you not feel self-conscious about it, honestly, you got to take care of yourself and do what's best for you. And the best way to get through college and through life is to stick with what is your moral compass. And if that's wearing a mask, you wear a mask, okay? So you will see us masking. I'm not right now because I taught last semester with a mask. The mic was actually on, and without that, I can't do this. But most of the rest of the time in rooms like this, I'm masked. A lot of us are masked. You have to mask in the classroom. And just know that there is a culture here that really encourages that. Okay, and hopefully they'll be testing again by the time you guys enroll in the fall. All right, so if there are no questions, I'm gonna hope that Eric Herrera is here for those parents who are staying. He is here, who are staying for the financial aid information. Eric has been the best partner in all of this, so he should be able to answer all of your questions. Again, your students will have time during the week if they need to meet with somebody in financial aid. But also a lot of the student advocacy that I do is helping students connect with financial aid and helping them work those things out and understand how to make sure parents stay involved, even though I think students are supposed to be advocating for themselves and being the adults that the university says they are, even while we think maybe just a little bit, right? So thank you all again. Do GFs need to give instructions? No? The students are staying too? Oh, okay. All right, thank you guys. Okay. So there is new tape right there.
Feel free
You
to
don't
return
want to
to
just
your rooms or hang out anywhere in the lobby. We'll be meeting at 11:45 down in the lobby to go to lunch. Please wear your name tag that were provided for you in your bag and contact. No one's there.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. We want to get a little closer. We'll make it as enjoyable as it can be in the morning on the 8th.
Now he's not looking. I didn't mean it like that. Okay,
All right, thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Eric. I'm with the university for 4 years now. We're just going to have a small interested in applying for financial aid. I'm only going to be able to talk to you on the general the financial aid process is very, we try to be as secure as we can with the financial information that you provide. So I have a sort of formal presentation put together, but I don't want to take too much time with formalities, or we can just have a conversation about specific things. But there are a few things that I want to mention. One of them is that I work for the Office of Financial Aid, which is part of the Division of Student Registration and Financial Services. So it's the same division that is responsible for registration, for billing, for student accounts, payment plans, for veterans benefits, financial wellness. And last year we introduced a department called Student Services Center because all students had to jump from one department to another to get answers to all the different questions related to registration, financial aid, and student bursary. So we created this center, and it's located on 34th Street in Walnut, where students can come in, get any questions answered about their bill, their financial aid. This is the time when you can contact our office. You can talk about all those different topics with one of the counselors at the Student Service Center. Those are all the different resources or programs that we can talk about. Any questions that you have. Like anything, we're not just going to tell parents everything you want to know about the student, because students actually have to give us permission. So some of you might be familiar with the policy, federal policy called FERPA, which actually guarantees that students' private information, from grades to financial information, all of that is secured by the university, and we actually don't share that information with anybody unless the students give us permission to do that. And the students can actually go on their account, on the student portal, and they can add you as a parent if you want to receive any academic information or any financial information, but the student actually has to start that process. We get a lot of comments and questions from parents, but we're the ones who pay the bill. We're the ones who are responsible. Yes, you are, but the reality is now we're dealing with adults, and that might be a little bit of a change for you guys, but it is actually extremely helpful for parents and students. We always say the financial aid process is a family process. There are families that the parents take full responsibility for financial responsibility, and nothing about it. The problem is, financial aid office, we are only required to notify students. We don't notify parents of anything. Any information that we need goes directly to the student. So if we send your student an email requiring any financial documentation or anything that you need to know about deadlines or reapply for financial aid, and your student just ignores it because, mom and dad are taking care of the entire financial aid. But they don't know because mom and dad have not been notified of what's going on. And that's going to happen all year round. So we send notifications all year round. Student accounts, register with send notifications to students all year round, not the parents. So you gotta work together with them. But also, students won't be able to do the financial aid process without a parent, right? You are the ones that have all the financial information. We're the ones who have a lot of the answers to the questions on the FAFSA application, the CSS profile, and all these other financial documentation that is required. So it's a family business, it's a family process. And if you want to receive financial aid, while your student is with us, you have to reapply every single year. And I'm going to talk about deadlines later on. But just a little introduction of who we are. We do more just in financial aid. I'm just responsible for financial aid, but my department, our division, handles all the different aspects of financial aid. One thing of student systems and financial aid registration and student accounts. One thing that I want to talk about is that the university is currently transitioning all their student systems from 40-year-old systems to 21st century systems. That transition started in November, and it's going to be ongoing for the next year or so. So we just ask you to be patient with all of us, everyone at the university, because it is quite a huge project that's been 10 years in the making. So there, of course, there are going to be some glitches. Of course, there are going to be some things that are not working perfectly at the beginning, but we are addressing those as soon as possible. So just want you to put it out there, just be patient with everyone at the university, because it is a very large project that's been going on for a while, and it's going to be some issues down the road. But we're going to make sure that we address it, and so you are not, or your children are not penalized in any way. For example, Camille mentioned earlier that students are not considered officially enrolled. They're not officially enrolled. So you might actually go into, or the student might go into the bill and see actually who charges for the entire semester. So you might see, oh, you can charge tuition, fees, room and board, and all that. But you might not see all the financial aid credit on the account yet. Don't worry, you need to worry about it just yet, because that is just how the process is. Until your son or daughter is actually registered for classes, the financial aid actually will not hit the account. Just go by what the financial aid or letter that you receive at the beginning of the year. That's what your eligibility is. It's going to be on the bill later on, because financial aid doesn't actually credit until actually there's registration. So little things like that are more systems related, you don't need to worry about it. We got it. We just want to make sure that you don't worry if you see a bill and you will see all your financial aid. It's just how the process is working right now. All right. So every student's financial aid package includes a budget or a cost of attendance. I'm sure you're familiar with it. If you've seen your children's financial aid package, we include different things on the cost of attendance. It allows us to build a financial aid package that reflects all the educational expenses that we anticipate that your student will have during the academic year. So we have tuition and fees, which are standard for all students. It's the same amount of money for all students who are undergraduate students. We have housing, dining. We added transportation component to the cost of attendance, not because you are responsible for it. It's just to give you an idea that if your child has to commute from one area of the city to another, all of that is taken into consideration, because it's more financial aid than we can actually put on the financial aid package. We also add folks' personal expenses that we anticipate that your child might incur during the academic year. Assuming you're responsible for them, it's just another way for us to make sure that you have the resources, the financial aid resources, not just for the tuition fees, room and board, the standard charges, but also other things that we anticipate you are going to spend money on. So how do we determine financial aid? Many of you might think the financial aid process is expensive. It is, and it's gotten more and more complicated. Sometimes it gets even more complicated when it comes down to schools like Penn, that we provide 100% of the students demonstrated financial need. Not a lot of schools can do that. So your child is very fortunate to be at an institution where most of the financial aid they're going to receive is in the form of grants. Many of our students, especially if you are considered a highly aided student, those are the students that receive the highest financial aid package, will graduate from Penn with zero loan debt. Not a whole lot of people can say that, and that's one of the great things about the institution. So we want you to take advantage of all the financial aid processes, of all the financial aid programs that exist. But financial aid also comes with deadlines. If you miss a deadline, you might miss out on some financial aid, and we don't want you to do that. So always check our website, and again, we will remind the students, hey, it's time for you to reapply for financial aid. All that information goes to the students on a regular basis throughout the year. We just want to make sure that you as a parent are working with the student, and so you're on top of the financial aid process. It's a relatively extensive process, but yes, it's easier and easier every year. After the first year that you applied, and the benefit is that you can get a great financial aid package by just doing filling out the paperwork or submitting the forms and documents that we need. So what we do, most of you submitted a CSS, a tax application and a CSS profile. Those are two applications that helps us determine the eligibility of your financial aid or financial need that a student will have. We request access for parents, for both parents every year. And we also have our own institutional form that we collect. We gather all that information and we determine an expected family contribution. Once you file a FAFSA, you get an expected family contribution, which is a number that tells us what your federal eligibility is. Once you submit a CSS profile, you get another number called also a parental contribution that will be different. And once we do our own review, we'll come up with our own institutional expected family contribution. That's the one that we determine to get to provide you what of institutional funding from what most of you will see paying grant on the financial aid package, or an endowed scholarship, which is money that comes from a donor that provided funding so your child could attend and get funding. So we collect all that information. We do a very holistic and comprehensive financial aid review, because we've been going out with the best financial aid packages from year to year after year, because we want your child to get as much financial aid as possible in the form of grants. We know some of you might have to take a loan, and we'll have to talk about loans later on, but the majority of you might be getting your entire tuition and fees at least covered with grant funding, because our financial package, our average financial aid packages cover tuition and fees for all those who apply. Questions so far? I'm going a little too fast, but I also know it's Saturday morning and you don't want to be talking about financial aid all morning. You good? All right. So types of financial aid. We usually include this. A lot of them are self-explanatory, but we usually include this information for first-year students. Because some of you might not be. Some of you might already have other children that went to college. Some of you don't, so you might not really be familiar with all the different financial aid programs that exist. So we have grants, either from the federal government, the state, or the institution. We have named scholarship, which is funding that comes from donors that provide funding to the university, which we're very thankful for that, because they make this happen. We have the work study program. That is my favorite financial aid program. I'll talk about it a little bit later on. Outside scholarships, and we'll talk a little bit about loans, federal and private loans. Is anyone here considered an international student? Okay, perfect. Because I have another slide that is just for international students. Just want to make sure if I need to cover or not, but I'll get to it. So I mentioned grants and scholarships. You don't have to pay back if you qualify for them. They're yours. And you just have to reapply for financial aid every single year. Federal grants come with a caveat. It is that the student has to be performing well academically in order for those grants to be renewed from year to year. Usually, requirements is 2.0 GPA. That's relatively low. Most of our students this process called satisfactory academic progress. Most of our students are good academic standing and they can get the federal funding, but there will be some students that whose GPAs primarily will drop below 2.0, or they've been dropping a lot of classes along the way, or failing classes. Those are the students whose federal aid will not be renewed from year to year, but we really do have a very small population that happens to, in a lot of ways because of more than just academic situations, and we work with the students so they can continue to secure all their types of financial aid. Loans, talk about that. If you apply for a loan, you do have to pay back at some point. I know there's a lot of talk with the Department of Education about what kind of loan reforms are going to be right now. None of that is happening, but the loans are available for you to take out if you want to replace your parental contribution or the family contribution with loans, so that way you don't have to pay out of pocket at this point. But I'll talk a little bit about that later on. The work study program. A lot of people ask us, do we need to work every single year? It's like, no, you don't. But we do actually encourage that students work while they go to school. A lot of families think, oh, maybe my students shouldn't work the first year because they should focus on academic. Studies show that actually when there's a little bit of balance of work and studies, students actually do much better. Every financial aid package includes a work study program. A work study component, and average from $2,500 to $4,000. Again, that's the maximum amount that the student can earn every academic year. What happens is the student works 10 hours a week, and they'll get paid for those 10 hours every week based on the work study allocation that's on their financial aid package. If a student doesn't work the first year, we're still going to offer the work study program the following year, so they can choose to work later on. Not required, but I really encourage that. If I mention my personal history with the program, I started working in financial aid as a work study student at 18. 20 plus years later, I'm still working in the field. A lot of students that start working in financial aid, they find a profession that they love and they pursue after graduation. So you can do work at an office if you want, you can work at a library, you can work campus center and a gym, you can work at doing research, which a lot of our students want to do because for obvious reasons, we are large research institutions, so you will want to take advantage of all of those resources, the academic and research resources that exist. But sometimes having a work study allows a professor that might not have the funding to pay you to actually hire you so you can do some work. So it's a win-win. And you can work a minimum of 5 hours, a maximum of 20 hours. It's really flexible schedules, but you are here to go to college, to go to school, to attend classes. That is a priority. Your employers, they're going to tell you, oh, you need to skip class so you can come and work. No one will tell you to do that because your priority is going for you to be a student. But while you're here, let's get some work experience, and also let's get you some money that you can use for your own personal expenses, so you don't have to reach out to mom and dad all the time to put more money on your debit card because you don't have cash. So it's part of growing up, it's part of becoming more and more independent. And once you start making your money, we all like it, let's be honest. It's like we spend less and less on others, but it also helps the entire family. So completely recommend the program. If you have it, if you want to take advantage of it, even if it's just a couple hours a week, please do so. It's not required, but again, it's recommended.
Can I just ask a question generally?
Of course.
And a lot of universities will have, like the vast majority of the on-campus jobs are work study. What's the split for you, work study versus non-work study job availability?
It's because we're fortunate we're Penn.
Yeah.
Everyone has a lot of our research jobs are what we call student workers. They don't usually, the department not necessarily uses work study funding to pay students, but it is, we have a lot of that. But in academic offices or campus center, dining, library, they primarily use work study funding. But we're actually working more and more with professors on the academic side, so they're not spending their research money on student salaries, but actually take advantage of the work study program. fact is that the academic side doesn't usually understand financially, doesn't know how financially it works, but they say, well, I have money, I can pay students, but once they find out they can use someone else's money to pay for student salaries, they will take advantage of it. They will encourage students to use the work study funding. So it's hard to tell, but if we actually working more with the academic side, so they know what resources are available, so they can save the resources on something else. Great question. Never been asked that question.
Can I ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my daughter was saying, with the work study, she's afraid like she'll make the 3,500 and then they'll drop her. They'll say, okay, you're fired.
Very. It doesn't really work like that. It's not so much like that. To be honest, most of our students are in the 3,500, unless you're working 20 hours a week. And some students do, don't get me wrong. And most of our students are in the 3,500. And if they do, they can always go to the Student Service Center, request an increase. We might be able to increase it. At the maximum, the increase could be an additional $1,000, but that could be all that student needs to get them through the academic year. A lot of times, if the work study award it's met and the department we cannot increase it, the department chooses to pay out of their own pocket to the student. It depends. It depends on the department. It depends how much funding they have available. Some departments have a lot of money. Some departments don't. They pay a share of the work study wages. So it just depends on that. But if the student doesn't, let's say, come February, the student earned the $3,500, for example, and they come to the financial aid office, the Student Service Center, and say and request an increase. But unfortunately, we cannot increase the work study component. That also depends from student to student. Depends on the overall financial aid package. They can go to the department and say, hey, I ran out of work study funding. Can you pay me from your own budget? And a lot of departments do, especially if they like the student and it's a good worker. They can do that. Some departments will say, sorry, we can't. But there are tons and tons of student worker jobs that don't require work study eligibility. The students can still apply. It might not be ideal having to switch to a job in the middle of the academic year, but there is an option that exists. Any other questions so far? All right, let's move on. Outside scholarships. A lot of our first-year students, but many of the first-year students come with their own funding. They worked really hard over the last 4 years trying to secure some outside funding, either from your employers, from parents' employers, or from a civic organization, or from a church, or just they went on a website and said, hey, we have scholarships available, apply. Password is a very popular database for scholarships. Whatever you bring, it's a resource that we have to be utilized by the institution and federal regulation. So what happens? Let's say a student qualifies for a $2,000 outside scholarship that they're bringing in the first academic year. We have to take that into consideration on the financial aid package. What's going to happen? Most students have what we call a summer savings expectation built on the financial aid package, which is the amount of funding that we expect a student will be able to contribute towards the education. Not just the parent, but the student. So what we would do, they expect the family contribution can range from some students have zero, or a highly aided student, they have a zero expected family contribution during the first 2 years. For a student that's not highly aided, you might see a $3,000 summer savings expectation. What that means is, if we get a $2,000, which is built in the package, and it's something that it's money that the student might have to, the family might have to contribute towards the student's education bill for that specific year. So let's say a student gets a $2,000 outside scholarship. We have to add it to the financial aid package. That's a federal regulation, and then we start adjusting the financial aid. What we will do, we will reduce that student's expected and summer savings expectation. Sorry, too many names. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember. We will reduce it from, let's say a student has 3,000, we'll reduce it to 1,000. So a student can take advantage of the $2,000 outside scholarship, so it's money that goes towards the bill. And and we just adjusted the package, but the student actually gets to work to receive the 2,000. Let's say a student has a $3,000 summer savings expectation and a $3,000 work study, that's $6,000 combined. But the student received an $8,000 scholarship, outside scholarship for that academic year. Great. We will remove the summer savings expectation. We will actually reduce the work study as well. But then we have $1,000 that we have to take into consideration in the package. What do you think we do? Do you think we just give you that $1,000 extra? Something that should be reduced, right? It will be nice, or it would be nice if we can replace the parental contribution. Ideally, most schools do that. Why? Because they don't offer an all grant program as Penn does. So it's not a win-win everywhere. It depends on the school that you go. We are providing 100% of your demonstrated financial aid. Other schools are not. So that is a policy that is not necessarily always fair, because we always feel bad for the students who work really hard to get those outside scholarships, and then for the school to say, well, we reduced your summer service expectation, we reduced your work study award, but we still have $1,000 again, we need to reduce something. Your Penn grant will be reduced for that specific academic year for $1,000. One thing, before you ask your question, you want to work with whoever is giving you that outside scholarship. Sometimes they can break it out into different academic years. Sometimes they can use it for the fall and spring semester. They can use it for the summer, and your child can take a summer class and use that. So there are ways for you to secure all that funding without losing any of your institutional aid. Yes, you had one.
So one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of the communications, we talked about it a little bit earlier, a lot of the communications come to the kids, which is interesting, particularly when it comes to schools, because they don't pay bills. And so the question becomes, is there an opportunity, like is there a waiver or something so that my husband and I can be sure that we're getting, okay, so we're just gonna trust it.
That's why you gotta work with your that's why you gotta work with your MVP on top of that. And I like having conversations like this when we're losing students, because I need you to understand that. But don't worry, they're gonna be hearing from us more and more throughout the year.
Okay.
Because it is a process that it's not solely on the student, it's not solely on the parent. So you have to remind them, hey, you get every so often, you get anything from financial aid, you get anything from student accounts, because it has a federal regulation, we can only go to the student and appropriate. Even though we know how things work. But it is how it is. Yes.
So on Thursday, I was told my daughter could include me so I could receive emails from.
You can call our office and we can discuss any of the information that she's giving you permission to discuss. But we're still not going to email you directly.
So that's just to talk.
Yeah. If you have any questions, you want to call the office, you can call, and if your daughter gave us permission to discuss your financial information, then we can to you. Otherwise, we can only have general information. But any communication from our office or any office in student registration financial services, that's regulatory student account, goes directly to the student's email, official email account.
I have a question about the outside scholarship.
Yes.
So I was told we could use the work study and the student contribution towards the scholarship, the outside scholarship. So how does that work with because I don't see the work study on the bill, but I do see the student contribution. So does that mean she's gonna get the $3,500 for the work study and not work? Is that what that means?
What happens is that the entire work study is removed if it needs to be removed. And then she won't have, she can still work on campus, but it will be a student worker job that doesn't require work study. So, but student still gets the benefit of that $3,500 component of the
How does
scholarship.
she get the benefit? Does that go under my parents' contribution?
No, it goes towards the bill. It still goes to the bill, and the balance that the student has towards the bill. But it doesn't go towards. In some ways, it goes to the parental contribution, but not But because it reduces at the end how much more money you have to pay
Oh,
on
it
the
does?
balance on your bill, yes.
Oh,
But on the financial aid side of things, we don't reduce the parental contribution, we reduce the student contribution. But let's be honest, the student contribution
it's the parents'
comes from the parents. Yes, it's just all technicality. But that's just how, I have a question to your argument. Yes,
Okay, so there's the work study and there's the summer student contribution.
yes.
On my students, which we have summer contribution, is there a way to request?
No, because if you request summer savings expectation, you're expected to pay for that.
Right, but she has scholarship that exceeds the work study that's greater than 35%.
So what
if she
if-
had the other component, then the other.
Yeah, but if we had that older component, then the grant that you're already receiving, the paying grant, would be less. So once we remove a component from your package, we actually give you more in paying grant. So if we were to add a component to your daughter's financial aid package, a summer savings expectation to your daughter's financial aid package, then the current paying grant that she has will be reduced by the same amount. So it is.
So how do some people have both work study and then summer?
It depends on if your daughter already reported on the financial aid applications that she's getting a scholarship, we take that into consideration when we process the financial aid package, the initial financial aid package. Or I mentioned earlier, so if your child is a highly aided student, which are students that, and I'll mention that a little later, that have they have the largest financial aid packages. They don't have a summer savings expectation because we already replaced that with additional grant funding. But if there is no summer savings expectation on the financial aid package, yes, we will reduce the work study, and then if something else needs to be reduced, it would be the institutional aid, which it would be the paying grant or any endowed scholarships. That's the part where I mentioned to you that you want to work with those different associations that are giving you the money, because they might be able to split it up in different ways so that way you can take the benefit of that. But unfortunately, we've seen families, and not that many that are in your situation, believe it or not, but we have some. We've seen families that have a $50,000 outside scholarship for one academic year, where they were not able to utilize all that. But they work with the organization to split that out in 4 years, and even the summer, and it took them just almost all that. So it is, I know it is not ideal. We're not in a point where this institution or most of the other IVs where they will be replacing the parental contribution. What was that?
I'll follow up after.
Yes.
So, because we don't have access to our daughter's bill, when it's due, does it automatically default to the payment plan, or do
No.
we have opportunity?
You actually have to sign up for the payment plan. You might not have the option to see the bill directly by using your student's credentials, but your student can actually authorize you so you can actually have access to the bill. That's part of it. So when you go on the system is called PenPay. You go to PenPay, you'll see add unauthorized member, and they will, I don't know what they call it exactly, but you can add a person to have access. You create your own login and you have access to the bill. So that's separate from the third part regulations that allows us to talk to you about financial aid.
Thank you.
Other questions about this? Yes.
So you are saying that there is a calendar of events that we can actually access and see that, payment is about to occur or needs to,
So when you sign up, when you get a bill, the student gets a bill, all the charges, all the financial aid, and we'll say your bill is due usually the end of the month.
Right.
If you don't pay the bill, the full balance at that point, then you either get a late fee, but if you sign up for a payment plan during the month of July, so that way you pay that balance in installment payments throughout the semester, then you don't get a late fee because you already signed up for a payment plan. I believe you pay $45 and per semester, or you can pay $45 for the entire academic year. Depends. if you select a semester optional or an academic year option. And yes,
You talked about scholarships. Are there scholarships that are not need-based?
no, we are a need-based institution, so everything is need-based. So that's the beauty of this school, but also for some, I mean, but let's be honest, these are Penn students. All of your children doing great academically. They're all doing great things. So these are Penn students. They're very competitive. So it's how most of all the Ivy Leagues and a lot of our school partners function, and that's just how it's been for many years. This is how the school was able to become an all brand. We cover 100% of your financial need in the mid 2000s. This is still relatively new financially program that we constantly looking to improve. But let's be honest, it also comes to how much money we have. So that's why we always have this campaign trying to get more funding from donors. We hope your children will donate when they out of here and they even making money, and because it helps everybody else. But just know that we're always finding ways to improve the financial aid resources that are available to all students, because we're a need-based institution. So I'll talk a little more about it, but let me as I start talking about all their financial aid programs, especially for heavy aid students. I'm not going to cover too much about loans, but you know what the basic things. You apply, you can apply as a parent, or we usually recommend that students apply for the federal loan first. There are subsidized loans where the interest does not accrue while in school, and the repayment doesn't start until after graduation. But we all know there's a lot of talks about forgiving student loans or loan forgiveness programs at the federal level, but that would not impact any of your students at this point, because nothing has been truly decided. But you can borrow loans to cover the parental contribution, some of it, all of it, whatever works for you. You get to decide how much you want to apply to loans, but it is an option. So won't talk too much about that. Most of our students, undergraduate students, do not borrow loans, which is a great thing. But they are available if you choose to apply.
How do you find out more about that?
About loans? What do you want to know? There's a whole section on our website about applying for student loans and what different types of loans are available. We always recommend students apply first for the federal loans, because obviously lower interest rates, and they have more different repayment options. So that way, a lot of students choose not to make any payments while going to school. There is a loan called the Parent Plus loan that you as a parent can borrow, but it will always be on your name. Most parents don't want that option because they want to put their responsibility on the student, let's be honest, but there are limits also on how much a student can borrow. Like the first year student can only borrow up to $5,500 for the academic year. Sophomore, $6,500. Junior, $7,500. It's not a whole lot, let's be honest. We cost $80,000, right? So the financial aid process, that's why your parents are here. Let's be honest, financial aid process is always going to include the parents. That's not going to change until your child is at least 24 years old. That is their reality. So when they say I'm 18, I'm a grown up, I'm an adult, I can decide everything I want to do, not really. Not really. That's just not how it works. At least that's the financial aid program works. It's always talk from the Department of Education. Oh, we're going to revise the financial aid program. We're going to simplify the FAFSA application. All of that's been. I've been talking about this since I started financial aid 22 years ago. So let's be honest. They say, oh, we're going to increase Pell grants. Great, but you go 5,000 Pell grant to 5,100 Pell grant. That's not really going to help much, right? So a lot of the funding is more and more on the private sector. That's the reality. But also just as the funding is available, the cost of attendance is also a lot more expensive as well. So, but a lot of our students, thankfully, a lot of undergraduate students who are financially graduate with less loan debt than students that go to public institutions.
What is the percentage of the total population that receive financial aid?
Yeah, undergraduate here at Penn. So we have 10,000 students, about 10,000 undergraduate students. 47% of them apply for financial aid.
You said apply. How many receive?
Apply and receive financial aid. Yeah.
That's two different things.
So 53% of our students are self-paid. That's not the case in most institutions, but that's the case in many of the Ivy Leagues. We want to increase that percentage of students who qualify for financial aid more and more, but the funding also has to be available. We already have one of the best financial aid packages out there, but the reality we want to do more. We have a new president, so we're looking forward to more of the things that are going to be introduced, because we want to make sure that the school continues to be competitive in all levels, and that's part of that. So, but if you want to know about deadlines, payment plan, when they're due, anything, just go to the SRFS website. Will be at the end. It has everything there. If you want to apply for loans and you're not sure, there's a whole section there. So go to our website before you call our office. This time of year, we, like any other financial aid office, we're getting 1,000 emails a day and 1,000 phone calls a day, so you're going to be waiting. So, but a lot of that information is going to be on the website, so you can get that information back. Talked a little bit about reasons to borrow. Basically, replace your parental contribution or student contribution. Loans, I talked about subsidized loan, does not accrue any interest while in school, and 6 months after graduation. That's the best loan out there. So if you qualify for that and you're applying for that, that's the first loan the student should be borrowing. It's going to save you money on interest. The interest rates were a couple years ago lower than 3%. Things have changed. 4.99 for the next academic year. Inflation is not helping student loan rates either. And none of us. So but it's a lot more competitive than any other loans out there. Remember, while in school, on the subsidized loan, no interest accrues. So that's definitely the best loan to take out if you're planning on applying for any type of loans. Have your student apply for the subsidized loan at least first. If you qualify, you also have to qualify for that. If not, the loan will be unsubsidized for the same loan limits that I talked to you earlier. But on subsidized loans, just like any other loan, the interest will accrue from the moment the institution receives the loan. This is a slide I was talking about for international students. It's primarily loans. If you are applying for loans as an international student, you cannot apply for the federal loans like the subsidized loan, unfortunately, but there are a lot of private lenders that you can use to help you subsidize your parental contribution if you have any. There is a whole list of our historical lender list on our website. You get to choose the lender that you want to work with. Always look for a lower interest rate, but also repayment options that work for you and your families. Some of the lenders do require that you make payments while in school. If that's the option, that option doesn't work for you or your families, then there are other lenders that can postpone payments until after you graduate from school. You must have a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident for obvious reasons, but there are some lenders out there that do not require that can be waived, or it's not part of the process. And like I said, repayment could start sometimes after graduation, but a lot of times private lenders do require that you make payments while in school. Any questions on this? All right, I'll move on. I'll just have a few more slides. Highly aided students, I talked about this. This is a population of students that we're growing and we continue to grow, and we're hoping to grow more and more in the upcoming years. It's our students whose families' incomes is $65,500 or less, and they have a parental contribution of $4,500 or less. And that $4,500 parental contribution is what the institution, our office, determines after we collect all the financial aid documentation. And if the student is considered a highly aided student, you will see that on the financial aid package. And some of the benefits of becoming a highly aided student is that we have a dedicated financial aid counseling team that we're asked to have designated counselors by this population of students because a lot of the students are also first generation college students, and our counselors also first generation college students can connect with students in different ways and help them, and then work very closely with all the members around the university. Camille said to you guys that he works very closely with financially. The honesty is financially works with almost all the department on campus. We work very closely with students having any type of financial issues. We hear from other folks, sometimes even before the students reach out to our office. If you're struggling in any way to make your payments, or you're struggling any way with your parental contribution, if there's a drastic change on your financial situation, we want to know. If we don't know, we cannot help you. If we don't know, we cannot help you. But if anything changes in your financial situation from year to year, we want to know. I mean, we helped so many additional families during COVID. Even after COVID, even right now, we're still helping people families that struggle with COVID. But because we are a need-based institution, we do have to collect additional documentation. But if it's going to help you secure more grant funding, who cares? Let's get the process going. We have a process called reevaluation. So if anything changes throughout the year, anytime during the year, we want to know so we can see how we can help you with any of your financial concerns. Yes.
So talking about the reevaluation, I was told there's a need you can apply as many times as you want, but you can only be reevaluated once.
Not necessarily. If there is a different financial circumstance, yes. Don't contact us and say, I want to get a reevaluation because I want more money. That's great. We all want more money. However, what happened? What changed? If something did change, that's when we can take into consideration. We collect a lot of documentation. We are required. We have more policies and regulations that you can imagine at the federal, at the state, and the institutional level. So it's not just coming to us and saying, oh, I want more money, let me submit a reevaluation. No, it just doesn't really work like that because we already do a very comprehensive financial review, and we go with our best offer. But if we know something changed, we want to know and say. So you can submit 10 reevaluations. But if nothing changed, it doesn't really help.
Even though something changed, I was told that's the limit. We can't do anything anymore.
That is not completely accurate.
Were you planning to share your email with us today? Because I'm about to leave.
I don't always share my email for obvious reasons, but I could share my email with you later on. But before you leave, I'll do that. And the reason why I say that is because we have a team of 50 plus people between the Student Service Center and our management team at the financial aid office. You're most likely going to hear from one of them before you hear from me. Not because it's just because even if I get an email, I'll always go through our counseling and our management team because they actually are the experts. But if you submit a reevaluation, you can submit additional reevaluations. So you heard that from me. If the circumstances change, if there's something else that we should know that we didn't take into consideration on the first reevaluation, we don't have a limit. But don't submit multiple if there's really no change because most likely the reevaluation is going to come back with no results. Okay. Questions? So all of the initiatives that we have for highly aided students are laptops. They receive a free laptop at the beginning of their first year. Some of your children might be getting a laptop that's actually already available, and they can go to the bookstore today and pick it up. We removed the summer savings expectations for first and second year. We're trying to see if we can do that for all years. But those are initiatives that they're new initiatives that we're introducing to the new president because we want to increase the support for our highly aided students, but also our middle income students because we all know that support is also needed there. So we're also trying to introduce initiatives for middle income students. And our middle income students get the annual income for the families usually up to $145,000. So if you fall in that, just know that we're always looking for ways to improve financial impact. And then this is my last slide. Never too early to start thinking about next academic year. The financial aid applications for the 22-23 academic, for the 23-24 academic year will be available October 1st of this year. So in about 3-4 months, you can start applying for financial aid. We recommend that you submit all the applications before our priority deadline, which is April 15th of next year. So that way you can receive the financial aid package early in the summer next year. Believe it or not, we have a huge percentage of families that do not submit the financial aid documentation before April 5th. It's not just unique to Penn, it's unique to almost every institution nowadays. So if I could help you in any way and help your children be on top of their financial aid, is we're gonna be sending notifications every year, when the process is ready, when the financial aid website has been updated with all the information to apply for financial aid for next academic year. Just be on top of it. I mean, the process could be as easy as you make it to be, or it could be as difficult as it could be if you miss deadlines or you're not applying on time. You're going to accrue late fees. You're going to have to pay for those. And why? When you can start the process at least almost a year before the following academic year actually starts. So you can take a picture of that if you want. I'm going to ask Nadia to share this with all the students, so you have that as well. But also always check our website as well. I'm gonna move to the next slide so you have our contact information. That is the first thing you should do. Just go to a website or send us an email, and we'll try to get to you as fast as possible. This time of the year is a little challenging for obvious reasons, but we're here to help you. Whatever you need, let us know. And then I'm just. Yeah, you're very welcome. You mentioned the one. Safe travels back home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions you have? I'm here. We'll wait until the end. That'll be great.
I know
Yes.
I called financial aid because we're doing parent loans, and they said, that you're updating your system, so we just have
That is a little bit of the delay that's there, but we are also telling families if you're applying for a loan, if you receive any late fees, that if the loan is not processed by the due date, which is, I believe it's the 30th of this month, we can always remove those late fees. Just don't wait too long to apply for the loan once it becomes available. But we'll also be sending out notifications to families and putting that information on our website, because we are experiencing some technical issues because of the new systems and the Department of Education systems and how they communicate. But we're on top of that, so that shouldn't take too long. But just keep checking our website, and we'll have more information there. Thank you, and thanks for the patience. Yes.
With the parental loans, once you've done that and you've gotten those approval, is there a button where a student needs to go in and hit, or is that, like, how does it get to Penn?
So the question is, once the parent applies for the parent plus loan, so once you submit all the documentation, the promissory note, the application, the student doesn't need to do anything additional. Once the parent completes all of that, the money will come to the school, and that will be applied to the student's bill. Just make sure that you enter all the correct information for the student on your application. That shouldn't be a problem. In other schools, the student actually has to start and do something on the bill to sort of confirm that they are attending, so that way the funding will be dispersed by the Department of Education. So not you.
You were in May, and nothing is in her account.
So what I was talking earlier, that there's currently an issue between the Department of Education systems and the new Penn systems. Even though you already applied, that's okay. You will eventually come to us, but none of the parent loans for any student right now have been applied to the account because of that issue. But we anticipate this will be resolved before the bill is due. For any reason it's not resolved, and you get a late fee, we will resolve that late fee. So we are we're extremely flexible and patient with parents, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Just be patient with us too, but we'll resolve it, it will be resolved at the end. Anything else?
So the only way paying is automatically.
It's not the order, if you apply, thinking of applying for a loan, you can still do that, plan to wait a little longer. If you want, if you're not, then you can make a payment, automatic payment through the HempPay website, which you can do either debit or credit.
Yeah, I did that yesterday.
Yeah.
But, and they charge a $33 fee.
There is a fee associated, I don't know exactly what it
Is that
is.
every month though?
It's for the payment, are you in the payment
No,
plan?
that's not what I'm talking
Are you in the payment plan, or you just paying the entire bill?
about. No, I'm going to pay.
You're in the payment plan. The payment plan is only to be $35 or $40 every time you sign up. So not every month.
No, they charge me a $33 fee on my bill.
Okay, so what I would recommend, the same email address that's there, that's for student accounts as well.
Okay.
Just send an email just to confirmation. I already have the information on the website, but it's not my area, so I'm not an expert on payment plan. So I'd rather you still contact that
Yeah, it said
website.
like processing fee,
Okay.
$33.50. Okay.
There might be, I thought it was only the $45
Yeah,
enrollment fee.
me too. I mean, I've been paid that, but
Yeah.
it also charged me $33.50 and said it was a processing.
I don't know what that is. It might be if you are paying for the
You use a
credit card.
I use the debit card.
If you use a debit, you shouldn't, but then again, it's not my area, so I would just recommend you contact.
I see that.
Hold on.
I sent them an email. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, all. I hope you have a safe trip home. Thanks for
Thank you.
sticking around. Appreciate it.